ahead and do the intro too.
This is the 5th, I think. Is it?
Yeah, this one is.
Okay. All right, welcome back to the Carrot and the Throw podcast. This is episode number 5. So a little recap. The first episode, we just talked about what this is about, a little intro. Second, we talked about the NBA playoffs. We got them tonight, Miami and Boston. Miami's up 1-0. We talked about the NFL draft. We talked about the lottery. And now we're going to be talking about March Madness and just a little recap on that. So we'll start with the first round and just go from there. Obviously a lot of games, so we'll kind of go through this as fast as we can. Alabama beating Texas A&M, CC 96-75, no surprise. If anything, it's a surprise they only beat them by 21. I mean, Alabama's just a pure juggernaut led by Brandon Miller, who, could be, in all reality, he's a top 3 pick this year. You can't deny that. Then we had Maryland and West Virginia. I'll go region by region. So we had Maryland and West Virginia play. Maryland wins by 2. They have a great front court. I would always love to see a Big Ten team do well in March. San Diego State versus Charleston. They only win by, 63-57. That was a bit rocky of a start, but obviously San Diego making it to the national championship obviously turned everything around. Almost losing though in the first round is kind of nuts in comparison to what they've, done past that. And then you had Furman and Virginia. Oh my Lord. One of the first games, I think, of the tournament, actually. It was one of the first games played. And, you have Virginia, who's, 2, 3, maybe 4 years removed from a national title. And you have them coming in and playing at a school which I guarantee you almost nobody's heard of. And, for them to, utterly implode in the last, 30 seconds of the game. The one guy, I think his number was 0, he just takes the ball and just instead of, throwing it off somebody's leg or something, trying to get it out on them to be able to reset. He's on the baseline. He just throws it up, gets it, intercepted, if you will, gets it stolen. Guy takes it, 2 dribbles, and then pulls up from 3, makes it, and obviously wins it for Furman. I think, it's incredibly embarrassing, especially when you're a 4 seed up against a 13 and you're highly touted like Virginia is, which, you can make a case for Virginia almost being a blue blood. For them to lose that game is just absolutely absurd.
What is a blue blood?
A blue blood, so it's basically like a dynasty in college. In college sports, a blue blood would be, just like, UNC or Duke or Villanova, just like these highly touted, dynasties of colleges, yeah.
Yeah, the college basketball is not my thing. Not my thing.
So we got Creighton and NC State. I picked this to be an upset. Creighton ends up winning by 9. They end up making a pretty lengthy run. We had Baylor beating UCSB by 16 18. Missouri and Utah State. I think I had Utah State in there. Missouri ends up pulling that one off by 11. And then Princeton and Arizona, 2-15. I think a 2 seed has lost to a 15 10 times before that. And then this would be the 11th time that a 15 knocks off a 2. Arizona, you're one of the best basketball schools in the nation. And, Princeton, those are Ivy League. Those are a bunch of nerds, There's no way that they should be doing that to you guys. But nonetheless, Arizona, I think they're only 1 year removed from a pretty decent run. So, for them to be losing to 15 is just absolutely absurd. And then in the second round in the South, we had Alabama beating Maryland by 22, which, at the time of this, I genuinely believe that they were, the favorite to win the national title. I mean, after that, just absolute demolition. It was just like, well, Maryland isn't exactly a pushover, and if you're beating them by 22, it's just, an absolute crazy occurrence, right? And then you got San Diego State up against Furman. Furman, they were just there on borrowed time. They shouldn't have beat Virginia. Virginia should not have lost to them, but that came to light when San Diego State knocks them off by 24 points. Not a whole lot Furman can do to compete with San Diego's front court and just overall fast-paced offense. And then you got Creighton and Baylor. This was a surprising game. Creighton wins by 9, a 6 seed knocking off a 3 seed. Baylor's always been good. They're only 2 years removed from a national title when we had the bubble in Indianapolis. Creighton just went on to make this unbelievable run, I think, to the Elite Eight, and it was really cool to see them do that. And then you had Princeton making it to the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed. I don't know how many times that's happened, but I'm guessing out of those 11 times that a 15 seed is beating a 2 seed, it's probably only happened once, and that one time was probably Princeton, but them knocking off Missouri, and it was in a kind of violent way, a 15-point win over a 7 seed as a 15. I mean, that's ridiculous.
That is tough.
It should have been, a Furman versus San Diego State, reality check. Like, hey, you shouldn't be here, and I'm gonna prove why you shouldn't be here. And then you have San Diego State holding their own really late in the game against Alabama. This just went to show that San Diego State belonged in the national tournament, even though they were up. They had no chance against UConn. Just an unbelievable team accomplishing an unbelievable feat. Really proud for that. And then you got obviously Creighton. Princeton really held their own in this game, only losing by 11 points. Really impressive to see them do that. Really impressive to see them even make it out of the first round. I mean, it's an improbable run that they went on, making it to the Sweet 16. And then in the Elite Eight, you had San Diego State knocking off Creighton. That was the regional title for the South. They only won by a point, so it obviously could have gone either way. Both unbelievable teams, but San Diego, their front court was just absolutely insane. They had good guard play. Just a really interesting team to see. So in the East, we had probably statistically the worst upset of all time with FDU, the Farley, I'm not sure. I'm just going to say Farley Dickinson Knights knocking off the top seed Purdue. Purdue was,
Purdue was the best team in all of college basketball, weren't they?
Yeah, one of. And
that's embarrassing.
Yeah, no, it is, especially when a 16 seed has only beaten a 1 seed once before that, and that ironically was Virginia with UMBC in 2018. But you just when you're Purdue and you're walking into a game like this, it's obviously I don't think everyone's going to play to their full ability just because you're writing them off. I mean, FDU didn't even win their conference if it wasn't for Merrimack, and basically Merrimack was Division II and they moved up to Division I and they moved in FDU's conference. Merrimack won the conference title, but because of their the NCAA's rule where if you transfer divisions, you can't play in the division tournament for 4 years, right? So this is their 4-year window where they cannot play, right? So FDU, by default, basically makes their way in the tournament, and they're I think Purdue's like 22-point favorites at this point, something crazy like that. And, I think it's absolutely embarrassing to all of college basketball for them to lose this game. I think it's embarrassing for the Big Ten. I think it's embarrassing for their school, obviously, in general. And Purdue, okay, so I'm an IU fan, obviously. Purdue and IU, our rosters were kind of similar. It was feed it to the All-American down low, and then if he's doubled or tripled, you're going to have to fling it out to your guards, right? And so your guards, when you kick it out to them, they have got to be able to hit. And if they don't, then that's obviously when you lose to FDU.
So sad.
All right. FDU going on an unbelievable run or FAU, my bad. FAU going on an unbelievable run after almost losing it in the first round of Memphis. They only beat them by a point. Beats FDU, gives them a reality check, only by 8 points though. FDU is, an unbelievable team. Beating Tennessee, which, I think Tennessee was a really fake team. I thought that they were incredibly fake and should not have been, shouldn't have gone as far as they did until they beat Duke. And it's a down year for them. Obviously after losing Coach K and after losing so much, it's not like they're the true blue blood that they were with Coach K. But at the same time, it's just an unbelievable feat for FAU to make it as far as they did. You had Mr. March, Tom Izzo, taking off Marquette.
Mr. March? That's a tough nickname.
Yeah, no, I love that nickname, and I'm iffy on Tom Izzo, but I always like to see a Big Ten team do well in the tournament, and it was cool to see them knock off the 2 seed, and evidently they fall to Kansas State, which really, should have been in the Final Four. I really think they got knocked off by FAU, evidently. Really, really interesting region. So that rounds off the East, and then we'll move to the Midwest, where my Hoosiers fell short. So you had Houston absolutely obliterating Auburn, right? Absolutely obliterating Auburn, and then having to play Miami the next game, and then losing by 14. I mean, that was just absolutely insane. Then again, Miami was in the Final Four, but still got smoked by UConn. But then again, everyone got smoked by UConn. We'll get to that later. And then we had Indiana making it past the first round, winning their real first, March Madness game since 2016. It was a step in the right direction, especially for Mike Woodson coming in here and really just trying to turn the program around after our last coach, which was, almost universally agreed he's the worst coach in IU history, Archie Miller. After he, utterly destroyed our program after taking the reins from Tom Crean. What he did in his 4 years was just absolutely unforgivable, and I'm glad that Woodson could take a step in the right direction and help bring this program back to where it needs to be. But us losing by 16 is just absolutely outrageous. I don't care if that's a Final Four team. That's just an absolute embarrassment. You don't do that when you have an All-American on your roster, and
Who
Miami has none.
Was it Trace Jackson Davis?
Yeah, Trace was. And, you can speculate on if Trace is going to go in the first round or not. But at the end of the day, you have two picks, that are going to, go on. You can speculate on if he's going to go in the first round. I think he might. So you possibly have 2 first-round picks.
Who's the other first-round pick?
Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Oh,
yeah, our freshman guard. So after that, it is what it is. But Xavier, you had them going to the Sweet 16. I always love to see Xavier do well. That's a really good school. I'm partially a Butler fan, so I like to see Big East schools do well. They fall short against Texas, which obviously falls short against Miami in the regional final. So that rounds out the Midwest region. Now headed to the West. Kansas falling to Arkansas. That was absolutely wild. you have so much star talent. You have Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson. The list goes on and on and on. You have an unbelievable roster. You're projected to possibly win it all, and falling short in the second round, as a 1 seed to an 8 is just absolutely outrageous. Like the whole bracket is built for you. Playing the 8 or 9 seed, you're playing the lowest seed you can play in the second round. That's a guaranteed. It's just absolutely embarrassing to see that happen. UConn's unbelievable run. I mean, they absolutely shut out everybody that they played.
Actually, really quickly, I actually predicted UConn would win it all.
Oh, yeah.
And my Mr. Kelsheimer, the person I'm making these podcasts for, had us do a bracket. I predicted UConn winning it all, but no, just I don't know much about college basketball, but I do want to comment on the utter domination that was UConn basketball and March Madness. Just absolute looking at these scores, there wasn't a single game within 12 points. They just literally dominated they dominated the whole country. It was just absolute domination from UConn.
Right. And a lot of that credit should really be in the hands of Adama Sanogo, who I think, it could possibly be a first-round pick this year. 6'9", 245 forward, who I think was born in Mali. Almost actually majored in math in France and almost had nothing to do with basketball. Comes over here and does a huge part in helping UConn win a title. Between him and their 7'2" freshman, I forget his name, but between them, I mean, they had, obviously the most dominant front court in all of March. So to see them do well was, something special. And then obviously, with their pure domination, beating Iona 87-63, beating St. Mary's by 15, beating Arkansas by 23, Gonzaga by 18, San Diego State by 15. None of these games were close. And to see them, do what they did, their closest game being 13 points to Miami, which Miami is not a pushover. Miami is not a 13-point win. But for UConn to be able to do it in the way that they did is just absolutely special. Definitely one of the most dominant teams in March. But UConn is losing a lot of pieces. I don't know if they can do it again next year, just because they're losing star talent, but at the same time they kept a lot. I think they're keeping their 7'2" freshman. They're keeping him. They should be able to keep some guards that did a phenomenal contribution to this year's championship run. Hopefully we see the Big Ten actually do well. They haven't been really doing anything for the past few years, past 20 or so years. The only notable thing that come out of the Big Ten was Wisconsin's Final Four run, I think Michigan's title run. Other than that, we really haven't been doing anything really since IU's been good, which, that changed in 2002 when that was our last title run, led by Jared Jeffries and Coach Mike Davis, who really, that solemnly was probably the best coaching job I think college sports has ever seen. Being able to take Bobby Knight's team and really just taking the reins and, making players who, are not really up to cut and, making a championship run with them, I think is just absolutely, completely commendable for them to do. In terms of teams that I could see repeating, so we'll go to the Final Four. I think FAU, their head coach being Dusty May, I think he's got the answers 100%. I think that's definitely something to do with him being what was it? I think he was a graduate assistant or a student manager at IU when Bobby Knight was there. Obviously one of the great basketball minds. You learned a lot from him. To see him, kind of blossom into a really good head coach, taking a small school to the Final Four. I think that's absolutely amazing for him, and big props to him for being able to accomplish that this year. So that's all we have for the 5th episode for March Madness, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hey.